Hey Covenantal, Witchy Mitchy here, and I am here to show you why DMPC is not the toxic dirty term that it's made out to be. So, you clicked on this video, ready to watch not even 5 seconds of it, probably tearing into me in the comments for being so wrong and so toxic and just so unaware of everything D&D. Or maybe you just genuinely want to hear what I have to say. So this is actually kind of a response video to 2 separate videos from Dungeon Dudes who, by the way, I do not disagree with frequently. I highly recommend their videos. While developing classes, subclasses, and species for my steampunk compendium, I religiously watched every ranking video they had, supplemented by a few from D&D shorts, but I think on this we're going to differ to the nth degree. In the first video, where the Double Ds talked about DM alignments, they said that one of the evil aligned DMs, and I think it was neutral evil, but don't quote me on that, is probably the only DM type that would ever even attempt to run a DMPC. Yes, the dirty word you clicked this video to discover why I'm even bothering to say. Everyone hates the DM who has a DMPC. So why am I telling you that it's not just okay, but it's vital, and most of your favorite DMs, especially Matt Mercer, who I highlight in this video, run them in all but name all the time? Well, I want to introduce you to the concept of the character sheet. If you haven't already seen it, which I know you have, the character sheet is filled with name, height, weight, class, often after level 3, subclass, tools, proficiencies, abilities, ability scores. You know, ultimately anything that fills up a stat block for a player character or a monster, plus personality traits, backstories, flaws, motivations, etc. Now, I'm going to run you through the letters of DMPC to show you how other DMs do it, and show you how you can effectively do it. I likely won't ever do this in my own campaigns because as a DM, I always have other shit planned, but it can actually be really helpful if you have first-time players at your table because they get decision paralysis and think that somehow if they go down the wrong path, they're going to lose D&D. Okay, so the first letter I'm going to start with and readdress with other possibilities later in the video is the letter C. The most important part of the letter C is compartmentalization. If you can't compartmentalize your DMPC away from metagaming and main character syndrome, you shouldn't be playing a DMPC. Honestly, I don't think you should be DMing at all if you can't compartmentalize. Monsters can't always know what players know. NPCs can't have innate and intimate knowledge of things that they wouldn't have knowledge of. Metagaming, bad. That is why D, and I think most of you will agree with me, at least on this front, will first mean don't. However, in my scenario, I'm going to put the strongest emphasis on D here to mean dependent. Your DMPC, in order to not make active decisions for the party, picking a fight or breaking something because they're a chaotic dumbass is one thing, making story-changing decisions on how to move forward is another. And it can definitely feel like you're railroading your players if your DMPC has a fully separate storyline and character arc that they constantly push for like a normal PC. I'm going to give you 4 or 5 examples of characters with whom Matt Mercer did this, however sparingly, at one time or another to fill in the letters MP, macro play or micro play, or just abbreviated Matt's play. I call this Matt's play because Matt Mercer is a master of this, and these characters had to have everything on the character sheet already ready for them. You'd consider them NPCs or pet NPCs. I consider them active DMPCs who are not around during the entirety of the campaign. Let's start with microplay because it's the easiest to show what I mean. There's some minor spoilers here for Vox Machina and Mighty Nine that I'm going to try to be vague as hell about, just for you, but some are unavoidable, so if you don't want that, skip forward to the time marked below, but you're going to miss my examples and have to take it on faith that I'm absolutely right. So let's start with Kiri. During the Mighty Nine, Kiri was a 4-year-old Kenku who could only repeat things that were said and write down her very basic thoughts. This made her decisions entirely up to and dependent on the party. She was adorable, everyone loved her, and she had a stat block, helped fight monsters, had character motivations, a personality, a backstory, and went on a journey as part of the party. If there are any other qualifiers for filling out a character sheet or being a player character, I don't know them. In Vox Machina, this example falls largely on Lady Kima of Vord, because she had to be rescued, therefore being dependent, and later aided the party in at least one fight, establishing herself as part of the party during this part of the adventure. She could be called the exact same thing as Kiri. These are what I call micro-play DMPCs. They are with the party for a short amount of time, the brunt of their character arc takes place within a few sessions, and they go their separate ways. But they were characters as defined by character sheets, whether or not character sheets were actually used to write them down. Now let's talk about macro play. These are the characters who have to have a stat block because they're integral to the story, and your chaotic party could get in a fight that encompasses them on either side of that equation at any given time throughout, but not every given time. They are high influence but low physical presence. You hear about these characters throughout the campaign, and they can either be helpful to the party or antagonistic. In essence, all of your villains are DMPCs in this way, but I'm here largely to talk about the helpful side, so I'm going to talk about Allura and Gilmore and even Pumat Sol a little bit. Very easily, at several points, Gilmore could have been in a long protracted battle that included the party. Very easily, at several points, Allura could have done the same. Pumat was in a big battle. These characters don't frequently see battle alongside your players, but in the case of Gilmore or even Pumat Sol, grievous injury that could quite possibly kill can definitely befall them, so they at least have hit points. And they can often do high-level wizard spells for a long wait, or a high price, or both. Almost exclusively with Mercer, these are wizard characters. Shopkeepers, high-ranking officials. It is by far the easiest to make them unattainably high-level helper characters who can do things the party can't, especially early on, because high-level wizards are OP as fuck. Last but not least, the one who could have gone longer, and who was a mixture, during her tenure, of both macro in being antagonistic, and micro in being part of the party. Captain Ivantika. This character, were it not for the actions of the party, could have easily been a compelling villain or dynamic DMPC that went on and on and on. However, the story and the actions of the party, upon whom she was dependent, led her fate elsewhere. Now, there is a habit of calling these characters pet NPCs. But these characters have all the prerequisites required to be a party member, required to fill a character sheet. If they didn't, then that's poor prep work for a DM that's going to potentially have these characters aid the party in a realistic to D&D setting. Also, if they didn't, that's poor planning for a DM who's DMing a chaotic party who could attack anyone at any time for any reason. How do you effectively run this type of character, microplay and macroplay aside? Let's ignore them for now and just stick with a traditional DMPC as you understood it being toxic coming into this video. First, you have to talk to your table. Make sure they're okay with you doing this at all. They likely won't be, but talk to them anyway. If they are, this character has to be that big D that we mentioned earlier. Dependent. Get your mind out of the gutter, you disgust me. My favorite kind of dependency is God's perfect dumbass. Grog Strongjaw would be a perfect lovable moron to model this kind of thing after. However, the motivation of this character has to be wrapped up in one of your other players' backstories and dependent on that character's momentum moving forward. This is the easiest way by far to do this. Make them utterly dependent on one of the player characters. If the player's character is a knight, your character is a barbarian, or a horny bard who functions as a squire. If the player's character is a criminal, you are their hired muscle, or their fence, or their trainee. You get the picture. Your character is backup to another character's arc. You are a sidekick, so to speak. Which brings me to another point. If you want your players to absolutely fall in love with your DMPC that you've created, the C also has to stand for comic relief. This character must be solid gold, hilariously stupid, or at least hilariously something that is totally inadvisable to human survival. Dumb, drunk, horny to an unrealistic degree, you get the picture. If you want to make this character even more dependent, you can make your barbarian or your horny bard a Kenku with super low intelligence. But Goliaths, orcs, or half-orcs, or any other trope-like big dummies are also acceptable. Now, they have to be stupid, that is just the traditional trope of those species. That's also the trope you're playing with here. The other part of this equation is that the C also has to stand for chaotic. Especially if these are first-time players. Why? A chaotic barbarian constantly spoiling for a fight just for the fuck of it can incite anything you want them to, just by the principle of I punch stupid thing or stupid person right in stupid face. There's no real narrative-changing decision required, just a barroom brawl that gets your players into making battle decisions, and those battle decisions can later lead to them making more confident narrative decisions. If you want to do that all the way through to the bitter end, be my guest. However, if you want to make the most effective use of your time and your narrative structure, I have two massive opportunities for you on how you can perfectly use this character. If you're a player, get the fuck out now. Get out. Don't spoil this for yourself. Don't be that dickhead who does that. This is for DMs. Okay? They gone? Good. First, I give you the Our D Means Death arc. You establish your party, you get your players making consistent, confident strides forward with their own play in the narrative, and at that point, this character has served their purpose and you don't need them alive anymore. So, kill them. Eviscerate the body, there is no resurrection from this. They are dead now, you have killed them. That's right, I said kill them. Kill your own fucking character. They need to be murdered by a sub-henchman, or a henchman's henchman. I will do a separate video on why the sub-henchman is the most vital villain in locking in your story as memorable, both in DMing and generally in fiction. And I cannot stress enough how personal this needs to be. This is an NPC, or another macro play DMPC, depending on how you see it, to whom the party has become attached because they have a funny voice, or they flirt with the party's rogue a lot, or both. Maybe your rogue is into that. Don't judge. It's not good. Don't judge. The important part is the party loves this character and depends on them whenever they're in the same town. They don't even have to be in the same town. They can cast Sending and still depend on this character. This has to be felt. Shopkeepers, wizards, Matt Mercer style macro DMPC characters that are beloved are perfect for this. These people whom the party has come to love will betray the party by murdering the lovable dumbass that you've created in cold blood. This is now a revenge story, and revenge stories are the bread and fucking butter of D&D. This party will ignore the BBEG just to commit war crimes on the person who murdered their pet dum-dum. They will go full John Wick and hunt a motherfucker down without question and without mercy. The other opportunity is the exact same scenario, but reversed. I call it Our D Means Deceiver. In this scenario, your DMPC, the supposed lovable dumbass, was actually a conniving sub-henchman the entire time, and once your party has started making confident narrative strides, the same strides you were hoping they'd make in the other scenario, you create a sudden murder mystery, where the party has to figure out who brutally attacked and killed your NPC, macro play DMPC. Again, macro Mercer characters are fantastic for this role. Turns out it was your lovable dumbass who was putting on an act and actually took obscene pleasure in torturing and killing this pet NPC. Then, in either scenario, they disappear in a puff of smoke, to hide behind the skirts of the henchman, who is trying to support the BBEG to get something they want, be it power, money, the life of a loved one. The henchman has to have logical and somewhat relatable motivations. The sub-henchman is literally just a sniveling, selfish sociopath with a bad habit of survival. This is now, yet again, a revenge story. John Wick, yada yada, welcome to D&D. You've got your bread, you've got your butter, and you've got your players excited to roll the click-clack math rocks to get some promising young woman-style justice on this little asshole that did this. Now, the playstyle the Dungeon Dudes accused the DMPC DM of having was a manipulator, possibly because they wanted to be the main character for a change, or they're a narcissist, or whatever. Firstly, if you didn't manipulate or move the emotions of your players or your audience or whoever, you didn't tell a good enough story. Nothing changed. Nothing was even likely entertaining. The negative connotation of manipulator, I don't think should extend to known and consensual fiction or consensual cooperative storytelling, because manipulation of ethos, pathos, and logos is kind of the name of the game. It's important to make people feel feelings, to have a sort of story that resonates with anyone. What would make you feel things in your personal life? Do you think these uses of a DMPC are viable, or maybe even good? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video and want to see more content from me, please like, subscribe, and share. If you want to help me in my transition, click that GoFundMe link below. Look out for my video next week on why sub-henchmen are not only the most personal, but the most necessary characters to memorable fiction and memorable DMing. And as always, stay cool, witches.